Evening, or welcome to Kicking Dust. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to bridge a kind of a tricky subject. This may make some people uncomfortable. So I went to the doctors. No, I'm kidding. So basically, what I was going to talk about today is actually kind of the changing attitudes of how people are actually playing Dust at the moment. And I think I actually fall into this as well. And let me explain. A lot of people who came to Dust came from a game like Mag, or they came from Eve. So there's kind of two different, but I guess slightly similar, but certainly those two gaming communities that circled this game before trying it. And I think that's quite interesting. And I think with myself, I obviously come from Eve. And I think this is an interesting thing that we've not started to notice. And I think this may even explain some of the forum rage that's going on as well. Let me try and articulate this. With Eve, you have a very dedicated group of players who play every day, and they will play for considerable amount of time every day. And what that means is therefore they are fully, and I mean fully, underline arrow pointing at it, fully invested in the game. And I think it's probably fair to say that Mag players are not too dissimilar. I think there was also very much a, regular everyday playing, wanting to be the best hardcore kind of gaming groups. And I think by coming to Dust, they have now entered a game that basically they play every day, and they play for some considerable time every day. Now, again, that's a sweeping statement. That's not everybody, but this is certainly, I think, what we observe. And I think for a lot of the forum rage at the moment, it's usually because there is this full investment in the game, and therefore this utter despair that it's not necessarily going the way that they want it to. Now, let me talk about a third set of gamers here. These are the casual gamers who will play something like Dust like you would maybe play Borderlands, for example. It's not particularly hardcore. Now, I know you do get hardcores, but they're playing this game because it's a pick up off a coffee table, have a bit of a game for a couple of hours, then walk away from it, and not really too concerned about skill points, not really too concerned about what's the current kind of CCP hatred out there. And I think it's interesting because what I'm finding is that a lot of the Eve players started out being very, very hardcore, myself included. And what what I'm finding, and what I'm certainly finding a lot of my corporation and the Alliance are now effectively doing, is that, yes, they're still playing, not as much, but they're still playing. But they're doing it in a much more casual way. There is this general acceptance that, oh, well, this is the way it is. I don't think people, every time we get somebody spurging majorly in the corp, we're generally taking them to one side and saying, dude, get the fuck out of the game for a while, take a break. Because at the end of the day, does it really matter if you lose a slot from a suit? Does it really matter if you XYZ? And I just find that there is this kind of, if you get so invested in anything, you're going to be disappointed eventually. And this is true of any game. I mean, Eve was full of these people who, that one mechanic would be completely crap to them, and they would just fucking spaz out about it. And I think that's kind of where Dust has got now. I read a post from a guy from, I think, Internal Error, and it was a very well articulated post. It was really good, and his points were valid. It was a really good diatribe, effectively, of what is the issues of perhaps Dust. But underlying it, and almost the unspoken word, the elephant in the room of that post was, dude, go and play something else for a while. There is this issue, I think, with a lot of players where they are absolutely so invested in the game that they are now blinkered to the game. Okay, and this is interesting because Josh, the leader of Tull, he's taking it easy at the moment because he just disagrees with a lot of the game's problems. He's not particularly happy with them, but he's still playing casually. He's still enjoying the game, and all it is he's taken a step back, he's taken a deep breath, and he is now enjoying the game in a much more kind of casual way because it's got problems, but I'm not going to let this bother me. And I would heartily recommend that everybody maybe just take a pause for a moment, take stock of maybe how they're playing this game, and realize that it's got problems, but it's still pretty good. And I think if you can just migrate back to being more of a casual gamer, where you're going to pick it up, you're going to be kind of a more forgiving, if you like, of any problems, then you're actually going to have a much better gaming time. It's funny because I remember when I was playing And again, it's not to do with how much you play; it's how much you're forgiving. It's how much you're kind of, casually, not getting bothered by it. I used to rage if somebody would kill me, and when I came up against really good teams, I would absolutely go for it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Still keep doing that. But what I would say is, that, you have to just accept that the game is not entirely, perfect. But then again, what game is? And you just need to maybe just retreat back to a point where you say, let's be more casual with this, okay? While it's got problems, while it's got bugs, you shouldn't necessarily need to invest your entire life into this game. And I know that's a very flippant, sweeping statement that I imagine has enraged some of you to the point where you're now mashing keyboard in the comment section saying, die Pyrex, die. But see it from the point of view that, the game, if you want the game to survive, you need to be more chilled about it. There needs to be, I think, a lot less kind of spurging and raging about it. And what I find incredible is when you go to the forum and you read some of the posts about, oh my god this, or oh my god that, take the tank's resistance from 27 to 25, rah! And you just think to yourself, really? Is that what's bothering you? Is that what kind of getting you up at night? To kind of make you scream and rage. And I know it's flippant. I'm not trying to be flippant. I really do. I do want to kind of articulate that the game is it has problems, but again, it's not bad. And I think if you want to have this as a hobby, if you want to enjoy Dust and Eve and the whole gaming collection, then what I would recommend you do is you disassociate yourself from the issues, because I think too many people are getting really worked up, and therefore they're getting upset, and they're getting depressed, and they're getting hurt by the game perhaps not being fit for purpose in their mind. And I would heartily recommend that when you get into that scenario, you're in a bit of trouble. Let me cite a metaphor here. You have a job, and it's a good job. You enjoy your job. It pays you well. But then, somebody comes to work with you, or you get given an account to manage, and it's the worst thing ever. And you just want change to happen so you can enjoy your job. And that's pretty much where I think the game is at the moment. People want change to happen for many, many reasons so that they can enjoy their game. And I think you can't control, nobody except CCP can control the output here. So what maybe we need to do is just literally, grin and bear it a little bit, but step back and say, do you know what, it doesn't matter. It's just a job, it's just a game, And I think sometimes we need to do this, otherwise we're just going to be driven crazy by this game. So I know that's a very kind of, penny dime store kind of whatever, analysis, but I do believe it. And when I come across people in the corp who are really raging and sending me rage mails like, Pyrex, you must do a video on this, it's wrong, and I'm just replying back to them saying, look, yeah, it's wrong, but come on, it's only a game, it doesn't matter, does it? Just have a bit of fun with it. Don't let it get to you, because the moment you let it get to you and you start writing war and peace on the forums about how incensed with rage you are, that's probably a good indicator to say that you're too bothered by it, and you need to chill out. Now, again, easier said than done. I've been there before. I've posted stuff on e-forums where I've gone absolutely spurge at CCP because of, I don't know, God knows what, stuff that really didn't matter. When you analyse it, it was just stuff that absolutely did not matter. But I would just heartily recommend that people enjoy the game for what it is, and enjoy the game for the potential of what it could be, given time. And I think if you work yourself up into a real rage right now, you're never really going to see the end content, because a blood vessel will break, or you literally will just spaz out and have a stroke, and you will just sit there with rage twitching, saying Dust 514, Dust 514. Don't do that. Just chill. And I know that, again, I make these videos really to kind of show the good game. I love this game. I think I've got great hopes in it still. I'm very positive about it still. I know people were thinking I was being negative in my last video. That's probably just me being British. That's the way we are. But I would say with this game as it stands, it is a fun game. It is a good game. And I think, if you let the bugs and the issues and the tweaking, things like the Flaylock, I know the Flaylock's dead. That's why I'm not really using it anymore. I'm not very good with it anymore, to be honest. I think mentally my mind has already come to terms with it by refusing to let me use it. So you have to just accept it. And I think, to be honest, the game is sound, the concept is sound, and CCP are also sound. They are a good game developer. They know generally what they're doing. I know people have major issues with them, but you know, I think they're going to produce, and they are producing, something quite fun. So all I would say is just de-invest yourself from the severity of the game. You know, don't get too worked up. I know this is crazy because I think a lot of people, it's like StarCraft. You know, when you play StarCraft, you have to literally live and breathe StarCraft. You have to just absolutely invest yourself in it and know everything, and you know, and you know, almost petition to get certain things, you know, nerfed and buffed and whatever. But let's not make this game like StarCraft. Let's make it a kind of, you know, a serious shooter, and I think it certainly will be that. But I think, you know, let's not make it something that is a real grind and chore to play. I think it should be something where you get fun from. Again, I am amazed how many people will just sit and suffer for a game. It's like, you know, I mean, you hear these people, you know, effing and jeffing on the forums about how the game is broken, and then you come across them in the game, and they're going like 40-2. And you're sort of sat there thinking, what? What's up with that? And I think that's the kind of irony here, is because I think a lot of people are just sort of, you know, they're effing and jeffing about stuff, but the reality is that they're probably, you know, they are aggrieved and they are pissed off, but it's like, well, you know, come on, this isn't Eve. You're not going to dominate everything in this game. You can't. It's just not like that. And I think you have to just accept that, you know, sometimes your suit is going to be killed. Sometimes you are going to be outplayed. And I think there is a little bit of that certainly in it. But I think also, you know, what we seem to bother ourselves with lately is funny to me, because at the end of the day, I think there's certainly a lot more things that we should be railing against and for, and I think, you know, certainly with the Eve expansion is one of them. You know, more interaction with Eve, more gameplay modes. I think certainly getting behind the developers and let's stop pissing them off. Let's actually help them out here with useful feedback, instead of constantly saying the game is dead, constantly, you know, this and that. I do still say it. If anybody comes to me and says, oh, the game's dead, the game's dead, the game's dead, I just say leave. Then leave. You know, why are you still here? You want to see a dying corpse twitch or something? Just go, because the game isn't dying, and the game is still, yes, its numbers are reducing, yes, there's issues with getting more players in, but the thing is, these are all things that CCP can fix if they want to, and you know what, they will, because again, this is a commercial product and it's in their interests to fix it. Anyway, gosh, what a long diatribe that was. I think don't let the haters get to you. I think, you know, it's important that people vent, and that's what the forums are there for. It really is important they get their opinion heard. I totally agree with that. But I think there's just too many people who are, you know, who are too invested in the game. They're too involved. They play too much, and that's probably what's causing them this frustration, because, you know, if you've got a tank and you lose it 3 times a day because you're on 8 hours, then that's probably going to cause you to rage. And it's stuff like that. In the reality of it, it's all pixels and dust. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.